Welcome into Grass-Fed Sports.
Like he said, welcome into Grass-Fed Sports. My name is Zach Trout, and finally getting the channel going. Finally being consistent about it. Finally filming like I should 2 years ago. And for the ones that stuck around that didn't really watch any content because I wasn't putting it out, thank you for being here. Thank you for the subscribers. I do have not very many of you. Hopefully we gain some of those as we put out more content, more videos about college football and about maybe some NFL stuff sprinkled in here. But we're going to transition this channel a little bit as well, adding in a couple little wrinkles, maybe adding in some outdoor stuff and some product reviews for camping or food reviews or just food in general, me cooking food. I have a couple good ideas with that, so we'll see how it goes, and hopefully it goes well, and hopefully you guys like it. Now today, just a free little shout out. Got my Rowdy hat on, Camden, Tennessee. Mark Rogers out there at Rowdy does a fantastic job with his product. Not sponsored by any means, but he does a fantastic job with it. Supporting the Camden, Tennessee Lions out there, or Camden Lions, I should say, but out of Camden, Tennessee. Does a really, really good job with them. Does a really good job with the sponsorship for some of the sports activities out there. So thank you, Mark, for doing everything you do. Again, not sponsor anything, but he does put out some good products. And I always like to give a free plug to him when I can. But yeah, we're going to do a whole bunch of really fun stuff with this channel. I want to give you guys a behind the scenes look of my second job, which is color commentating for the Camden Lions. Gotta get out, like I said, behind the scenes look of it, see how that goes, see how everything gets set up, see like in the booth, the ones that don't really get to see in there all the time, and just see how we kind of function as a team, me and Flash. So but again, that's what I want to do with this channel. And maybe sometime in the future we split up the outdoor stuff and the remodeling stuff. We put that on its own channel. But for right now, I want to keep it all into one, just to kind of get the fan base going. So, but again, welcome to the channel. This right now, we're going to stick with college sports, and we're going to talk about week 1 of college basketball, or college basketball. That's a long time away. Week 1 of college football, I should say, and also talk about the AP poll week 1 that just dropped. Get some results going for week 1 as well, because there was some surprising games out there and very interesting results. Speaking of the thumbnail with Florida State, and I want to start on them. Actually, we'll go ahead and start on Florida State. Florida State, week 1 wasn't surprised they lost. Georgia Tech came to that game beating Florida State the last 3 times they played. Twice of the last 3 times they played, and they were away from home. They were in Ireland. It was a neutral site game. I had a good feeling that Georgia Tech was going to end up, I think I said Georgia. If I said Georgia State, I'm sorry, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, I wasn't surprised that Georgia Tech ended up getting that win. They have a good running game. The quarterback's pretty decent. They got a good defense. Their offensive defensive line did phenomenal, compared to what everybody thought they were going to be able to do against Florida State's line of scrimmage. It did not surprise me whatsoever. But going into this game last night against Boston College, this game, I thought Florida State was going to have a rebound game. I really thought Florida State was going to come in there, take care of business. I knew Boston College had some talent, but I just did not think they were going to be able to stick with Florida State. And I was dead wrong. Absolutely dead wrong. They came in there to Florida State, to Tallahassee, and they didn't dominate by any means. Boston College did, but they kind of did in a way. Low key, they kind of dominated. They played tough ball. They made some mistakes here and there, but anytime Florida State would get any momentum going, Boston College would go right down the field and score pretty quickly too. Multiple times. Anytime the Florida State would start coming back and inching closer to take the lead, Boston College would just spread it even farther. And I kind of feel bad for Florida State in a way. Not really, me being a Tennessee fan, don't really feel bad for them. But at the same time, they had such high expectations. I think the reason I feel bad for them is because I've lived through it with Tennessee, being a Tennessee fan. I've lived through the pain. I've lived through just the cringiness of Butch Jones and Jeremy Pruitt, and just the way that we lost a whole bunch of games that we had no business in losing, specifically with Georgia State and BYU and Vanderbilt with Butch Jones. I mean, just bad losses. It reminds me of those kind of times. Mike Norvell is nowhere near Butch Jones or Jeremy Pruitt. He's an excellent coach, but for some reason, this team just can't get going. They can't get out of their own way. They keep shooting themselves in the foot. The biggest thing I've seen is the drops, man. The drops have been absolutely terrible for Florida State. I mean, in crucial third downs, wide open guys hitting them in the hands and just flat out drop the ball. They either tight ends or wide receivers, running backs, whoever it might be, just flat out drops. With wide open or no coverage hardly. I mean, they have a good route. They're wide open. Nothing. And when you do that, you're not going to win that many games. And that's exactly what happened last night. I don't have the stats in front of me for how many drop balls they had, how many drops. But, man, it was rough for Florida State when it comes in. And DJ, I'm not going to even try to pronounce his last name because I can't. Because I've tried 1,000 times and I can't do it. But, DJ, he's got a pretty ball, and he's had some mistakes on his throws, overthrows especially. But man, it's just for some reason they just cannot get it going like they should. And the drop balls, the wide receivers need to hit the jug machines for sure. DJ is throwing decent. He's got to get a little bit more accurate. But man, it's Florida State went into this season with really high expectations. Going last season undefeated, getting snubbed from the college football playoff last year. In my opinion, they did. Even though the 4 teams that made it in were better, and obviously it showed when Georgia stomped a mud hole in them in their bowl game. But they came in having something to prove. That was the thing. They had a chip on their shoulder. They had a chip on their shoulder, ready for this season to get started, ready to go, and they dropped the ball, literally and figuratively, twice. Now, in 2 games, dropped so many drop balls and so many just missed plays that they could have won them the game, but they just couldn't do it. And so, Florida State, they still technically, mathematically have a chance to make the playoff, 12-team playoff. And mathematically, it's only week 2 for them. They played week 0, week 1. They still technically have a chance to make the ACC championship game. But it's really tough now having 2 conference losses. So, maybe they can do it. They probably won't the way they're playing, but maybe they can finally start stepping up and doing well. But we'll see how that goes for them. Other games that really kind of surprised me. How well Idaho stuck with Oregon. I mean, I didn't see that game going that way whatsoever. I felt like Oregon was going to boat race them from the beginning. It looked like it was going to go that way. And then next thing you know, here comes Idaho, and they stick with them for a while and made it a really close game. But then Oregon, of course, pulled away at the end, got the victory. But Oregon ended up dropping down to 7 in the AP poll. They started at 3. They dropped 4 spots off of a win. Not a loss, a win, which is ridiculous. You don't really see that much off of a win. You drop in 4 spots, but they did, and it's because how poorly they played. Even though with the victory, I mean, it's Idaho, so that's not a very good win when you. What was the final score for that game? It wasn't that great. 24-14. So when you only beat an Idaho team that's been bad forever by 10 at home, you're going to drop some spots. The other game I wanted to really talk about, get into, was everybody's sexy pick for some reason for Virginia Tech making the playoff. I mean, I understood it. Virginia Tech's got a solid roster. They look good on paper, and that's what everybody saw. They just flat out performed poorly against Vanderbilt, man. They did not show up at Vanderbilt at all. Vanderbilt ends up winning that game 34-27 in overtime. Good for Vanderbilt. That's awesome. But, with Drones and Scalee, quarterback, or Drones, I guess you'd say. 22 of 33, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception for the Hokies. It's not bad, but the rushing game. The rushing game here, they got a total. They're number one back. Got 34 yards. Drones had second. He had 16 carries for 19 yards. You know, they had a total of 75 yards rushing against Vanderbilt. Now, that's one of two things. Vanderbilt has a really good defense now, and they're a solid team, and they're going to win, you know, maybe 4, 5, 6 games. It's going to be hard in the SEC, but it's possible. Or the Hokies are not that good, and I'm kind of leaning both, because I do like how Vanderbilt played. I like how their quarterback played. I like their defense, the way they stepped up. But at the same time, you know, I really think Virginia Tech's not a very good football team. They got talent. They're on paper, they're good on paper. But everywhere else, you know, on the field, it doesn't translate. And that happens a lot. You know, you look at, you know, some Tennessee teams back in the past having, you know, under Butch Jones, having top 5 recruiting class, it seems like every year, or at least top 10, and they don't do better than 8-5 in a season, or 9-5. Never could break the double-digit win mark, even though they're, you know, for at least 3 or so years in a row having a top 10 recruiting class. You know, I'm not going to blame coaching, but I'm also not going to blame the players all that much, because you're only as good as what you can be coached sometimes. And so, you know, and also you're not as good as some of the schemes that you run. And, you know, Virginia Tech really a sleeper, sexy, you know, playoff pick? Not my opinion. I didn't have them up there. I had them maybe doing okay in the ACC, but not like that. So, you know, I'm not particularly surprised that they were going to have an early loss, but not to Vanderbilt. I never saw that. But yeah, another couple games, you know, they're really good, solid games. That LSU USC game, you know, USC ends up winning 27-20 with hardly any time left. You know, Brian Kelly's post-game interview was pretty great. I'll cut it in right here so you guys can see it. It's a classic from Brian Kelly.
We had some guys played their butts off tonight, and we're sitting here again. Talking about the same things.
But yeah, he definitely was upset that the way his players performed, especially towards the end of the game. He didn't think they had any business losing. You know, USC under Lincoln Riley, they're a good team. They didn't perform very well last year. They got some talent still, and you know, they come out and you know, they perform like they should against a top 15 team in LSU. That's the way you want USC to actually play. You want them to be good. It seems like college football is always better when USC's good, and Florida State's good, and Tennessee's good, and all these big, you know, name teams are good. College football is more competitive. It's more fun to watch, and I don't mind this loss. It was a close loss. LSU's still a good team, but now we can kind of say, hey, USC's also in the running to be a really good team too. I didn't think they were going to be, but I was wrong. So it's definitely a surprise there. And the other game that I was going to talk about, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, kind of same situation. You know, Mike Elko comes in there. I really like Mike Elko. Mike Elko was a heck of a coach, and did well at Texas A&M before. Did well at Duke, turning them around, and then now being at Texas A&M, I have some really high hopes. I think he's going to be a heck of a coach at Texas A&M. He's got the talent around him. He's got the players. He's got the staff. They're going to be good. They just ran into a really good Notre Dame team that always is stacked at tight end, always is stacked at defense, always is stacked at offense and the defensive line. You know, they're always going to be good in those areas. Now, they always have like those couple games where they suck. Of course, it's Notre Dame. They're always going to choke at some point, it seems like. But, you know, against this team, against this Texas A&M, that's an impressive win. Beating them 23-13, beating them by 10, that's an impressive win, especially being at Texas A&M. That's Kyle Field. That's impressive. You know, that game was really close early, and the Texas A&M's quarterback just couldn't get going in that. Wigman, he went 12 for 30, He had 2 interceptions, only 100 yards. I mean, that's kind of trash. It's actually really trash. And so he just couldn't get going. The rushing game didn't get really going either. I think they rushed. They had almost 146 rushing yards. It's not terrible, but total yards only 246. That proves that Notre Dame's a good defense. I think they're a playoff team, but I don't think they're going to make it, really past the first round. I don't think, depending on where they go. They'll have to play the first, since Notre Dame cannot make it into the top 4. They can't be a top 4 seed since they don't play in the conference. So I think they might win that first round. I don't think they'll make it out of the second. But they're a good team. I feel like Notre Dame's got a good chance of doing good things this year. But that game was really fun to watch. I kind of felt bad for Mike Oko. I really wanted him to win this game. This is because I really like Mike. He's a real likable guy, a lot better than Jimbo. His offensive schemes are excellent. I know he's a defensive guy, but he's learned under a lot of really good offensive coordinators. Jimbo Fisher, for one, really good offensive-minded coach. Just very predictable, as we all know. But yeah, Mike Oko, one of my favorite coaches out there, especially in the SEC. I really hope he does well. And I really thought they were going to win this game. Unfortunately, they didn't. But yeah, that's it for the result-wise. For, in my opinion, some of the best games. Not including Tennessee in this. Even though I'm a big Tennessee fan, as you guys can see behind me. But beating a good Chattanooga team, being preseason number 8 in the FCS, but still beating them by 66 points. It's a beatdown for sure. But it also showed that Nico Iamaleava really is the guy. I said I wasn't going to talk on it, I guess I really did. Nico is definitely the guy. I think he's. A lot of people are saying he's better than Hendon Hooker. I need to see more, for sure. He's only played a half of football, and people are already saying he's better than Hendon. You gotta see more than that. You gotta see more than just a half. You gotta put him in one of these big games like this weekend against North Carolina State. We'll see exactly who Nico is probably this week, and then the media is going to continue to say that every single week. They play Alabama, or they'll go into Oklahoma in 2 weeks, and everybody in the media is like, "Oh, we're going to finally see what Nico's made of." We'll hear that 1,000 times this season, it seems like. But yeah, Nico, I think, is the guy. He's going to be good. He's going to be fun to watch. But yeah, it was just a beatdown. Rushing game was great. Dylan Sampson had 3 touchdowns. Nico breaking our first half stat with having 314 yards in the first half, 3 touchdowns. It breaks a record set by Tyler Bray back in 2007, I do believe. 2000 whatever, I can't remember now, but Tyler Bray, I think he beat him by like 1 or 2 yards. But yeah, really exciting stuff for Nico. Really exciting for stuff for this. Really exciting for this team. It's going to be a lot of fun. They're going to be a lot of fun to watch this season. But yeah, that's all we're really going to talk about in Tennessee, just because it was kind of a cupcake. It could have went 1 or 2 ways. It was either going to be a blowout or going to be close. I never thought they were going to lose a game. But UT Chat, watch out for them in the FCS. They're going to be good. They're going to be there. They just didn't stand a real chance offensively with Tennessee. They did some good things on their. I thought once Tennessee started pulling some guys, started putting some second stringers in, you could tell that the way they were throwing it, they were kind of doing some quick passes. They got some yards doing it. They did well, getting some good gains, getting down the field a little bit when kind of in a hurry up offense, almost like a 2-minute offense is what they kind of stayed in. Just real quick passes on the border. They did a good job doing that. But other than that, the Tennessee kind of dominated. But yeah, now we're going to get into the AP Top 25. AP Top 25 dropped today around 1 o'clock. And as you can see down here on the bottom ticker, you can see it's been going the whole time. You can see the teams for week 1 or after week 1 going into week 2, top 25. And I want to talk about some movements, some of the big movers this week. So the biggest mover of the week was, of course, USC. USC was ranked 23 after beating LSU this weekend, jumped up to 13. I can't justify that. I wouldn't put them at 13 at this point. I would have probably stuck with them around 16, maybe 17. You know, because all these other teams ahead of them at that point, they were 23 in week 1, including, you know, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Utah, Oklahoma State, those type of teams, they jumped. And to me, a lot of those programs absolutely blew out their opponents. And I know USC beat LSU last minute in a touchdown with a 30 or so seconds left, which is a great win for them. But I still can't justify it being that big of a jump, 10 spot jump. I'm seeing more of like a 5 or 6 spot jump. But I don't make the rules. I'm not part of the voting committee by any means. But yeah, they were the biggest jumpers of the week. The second biggest jumpers was Miami going up to 12. Again, one of those same situations. Miami, jumped. They went from 19 to 12. So jumping that whole group that was right there in the middle, in that 15 to 18 mark, jumped them all. Again, I don't see the justification. I mean, yeah, they beat Florida, which was unranked. An unranked Florida. It was in Gainesville, yeah, but it's an unranked bad Florida team. Billy Napier is not a good coach. Has brought Florida down to probably one of its lowest that its program's ever been in. And you get 7 spots for a win over a bad Georgia or a bad Florida team. I mean, come on. I don't see that at all. Especially not jumping in Tennessee and Oklahoma. Again, I'm talking Tennessee because I'm a fan, but realistically, even if I wasn't a Tennessee fan, you can't jump those 2 programs. I think if you put Oklahoma versus Miami right now, neutral site, Oklahoma's winning that game. I think if you put Tennessee, Miami in neutral site, I think it'll be close. I think it could go either way, but not 2 spots ahead of them. Not 2 spots ahead of Tennessee, right? And so I don't really see that one that much. But yeah, those are the biggest movers, surprise movers, I guess you could say. Tennessee does jump up 1 spot. LSU drops down 5. Iowa. I forgot to talk about it. What about Iowa? Iowa has an offense. They won 40-0. Iowa scored 40 points in a game. When did that happen? How much changed? Well, you got McNamara there, I guess. The transfer. He got hurt last year, and he was doing some good things last year. With but they played Illinois State. Or whatever. Yeah, Cade McNamara. I mean, he was good last year before he went down with his injury. But it still wasn't 40 points on an Iowa, or 40 points for an Iowa good. He was good, but not that good. And somehow he completely turned this offense around. Scored 40 points. 40 points for Iowa. But yeah, they moved up 4 spots to 21. That's deserving. That's absolutely deserving. They actually have an offense. Their defense is still good. Definitely deserving. Clemson almost dropping out to 25. Again, one of those, that was the biggest negative mover. Under 11, actually, Florida State was the biggest mistake. So actually ranked anymore. But 25 wise, they don't. Florida State didn't even get a point. They didn't even get a vote for top 25. Vanderbilt got 8 points. UNLV got a point. Florida State got nothing. West Virginia, Kentucky got points. Appalachian State got points. Florida State did not. That's what happens when you go 0-2, Florida State. You got to catch the ball, man. You got to catch it. You got to catch them all. It's like ass catching, man. But anyway. Yeah. Kansas looked good. Moved up 3. Oregon, that was a big surprise for me. I mentioned it earlier. Oregon dropping 4 spots on a win. You don't see that. I mean, I could see 1 spot or maybe 2 spots, but 4 spots on a win. It's kind of crazy stuff. All right, guys, we're at 25 minutes. That's going to be my time for tonight. I got to get to the kitchen, eat some supper tonight. Wife got made some tenderloin last night. It was so good. It was, and doing some sweet potatoes tonight with it. So really good stuff. Really good supper tonight. I cannot wait to eat it. So thank you guys for joining into the show. So glad to be back. I'm gonna put out another one here in probably a couple days. Probably maybe Thursday. Maybe Friday. Might be Friday afternoon. Could be Thursday afternoon. We'll see with my predictions for this coming week, and then we'll also do maybe like a recap kind of thing on Saturday, possibly, or maybe some other news or something like that we'll do on Saturday, or I might do some cooking, like I said. Yeah, that's kind of one thing I wanted to do. Just one more minute. Just one more minute. That's all it's going to take. Another thing I was going to do is I was actually going to do like the top game of the week, right? So this week, Texas and Michigan, I believe, is where the college game day is going to be. I do believe. Let me just check for you real quick. Let's see. Yeah. Texas is a 7.5 favorite. 7.5 points on the road. But yeah, that game, I might do some like cuisine stuff where I take a little bit of Texas, a little bit of Michigan, put them together, see how they work. I think that would be fun. You know, I don't know what Michigan is known for when it comes to food, but I know what Texas is known for, and that's freaking beef barbecue. And I'm a sucker for beef barbecue, so do some short ribs with whatever kind of crazy stuff Michigan eats. I have no idea. I'll have to look it up. But if you guys want me to do that, I'll definitely do it. It'd be kind of cool. But yeah, thank you guys for being in. Thank you for coming to the show. Remember to like and subscribe. Like to this video, subscribe. I will be getting more videos out. And thank you so much. And we'll see you guys later.